All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Kelby, and I'm joined with Drew, my co-host, and our father, business owner of Armcorp, Tim. How you guys doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So today, this is going to be the first episode of Learn from Tim. We went over the summary of all the 3 episodes we're going to have so far, and this one is going to be Learn from Tim. It's just going to be Tim coming on and just giving you sharing his knowledge of all of his experience over the years, from the Army to through all the businesses he's worked for, and then now where he's at nowadays. So yeah, if you guys just want to jump right in, we'll start with Tim, just telling us a little about how you started. So you were in the Army for how long?
I was in the Army for 6 years. First 4 years was active duty, and the last 2 years was reserve. Went in 1983 and got out in 1989.
And what'd you do?
I was a combat engineer.
And what is that?
Well, what a combat engineer is they are the ones that go in first after the sniper group, the ground pounds. Then we start going in with engineering equipment, meaning as dozers. If there's bridges that need to be built, they are bridges that are on top of tanks that will lay out that the tanks can come in. And then we're there to set up claymore mines. So we're basically taking care of the infantry, and we're setting up tank deflays or holes that tanks can go in and fire when needed.
So you were before the infantry?
Basically, we are. If we got to jump in or we got to take care of what we got to get in after we get our report. And so when the report is turned in, then we know where the locations are at.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking. People say the infantry have a lot to do and a lot of people around them, but you guys are in first to clearing the way.
Yeah, I think the infantry, they're the ground pounders, so they got a tough thing in front of them. But we're going in blind. It's not as blind as it is now. Then we didn't have the technology that was set up. We had to not like wing it, but we pretty much needed to know the area pretty quickly.
Yeah. So what made you want to join the Army?
Well, it's not really I wanted to join the Army. It's pretty much I had to. Going through high school, as I wasn't the smartest and brightest kid around, but I got through to pass. Always make my joke is that I got a 4.0 and it took me 4 years to get there, but I got there. And baseball was my love, but I couldn't afford to go to baseball and play baseball. So there was no other choice. I wasn't going to work. It was a kind of a recession area. And at the time, so I thought, well, my dad went in, my grandfather was in, and so I went ahead and joined the Army.
Awesome. Did you choose to become an engineer? Or did they just, you kind of got placed
No, I chose it. You take a test to see where you put yourself into, and I was surprised I actually did pretty good. There's the difference between what you feel that you could do, and I felt that I could be an engineer because my grandfather was in construction anyway. So I thought, well, combat engineer, it's a lot of construction, and that's the route I went.
It's kind of in your blood already.
It is in the blood. But if it's in your blood, you still got to like it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so transitioning through kind of what you've been through with some other companies and stuff, what's some experience in some other companies that you've worked through?
The experiences I've worked through, knowing that I didn't really know if I was going to be in business or not, but I wanted to find a company that I could really enjoy and to show basically what we build. And that's why I love building. You're starting from the foundation on up, so you really have something to prove once you're done with it. And then you can share that story. And that's the best part of it. But when you're working for somebody else, you got to have a great attitude and an atmosphere that you enjoy working. And to me, it wasn't culture. Culture became a word here in the last few years. It was just working for a good company that would treat you right. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about just for them, because I felt that every company I worked for, I was expendable. Mm-hmm. So there's good meaning behind it. But then when you think that you're expendable, then you got to move on and find out what else or who else is out there that can meet up with your standards.
Gotcha. So like, did you ever fall out of, I mean, do you just enjoy construction, or what's your favorite aspect of it that kept you in it?
I look at construction as an art. When I was in high school, I did a lot of drawing, painting. That's my hobby. I haven't done it in years, but that's what I really love. That's what I can actually pass and have a good grade on. So other than study hall, I think art was probably my love. And then getting into construction, knowing that when you're building something, that's like painting a picture. And that's what made me feel that doing construction is quality and the way it looks. Starting from the ground up is the area needs to look clean, just like a board. You're starting a painting, the board is clean. And I think every time you paint, there are some sloppiness. But then if you keep it clean, you have a good piece.
That's true. That's very true. Because I mean, there's probably artists out there that know that everybody sees that final product and thinks it's amazing and immaculate. But in the process, there was probably plenty of mistakes and plenty of mess ups or anything like that. But you learn from it.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting is that if you see someone putting something on a wall and you're looking at it, boy, that really just looks terrible. But until you wait and have the patience to see what the finished product is, then you'll start understand how that story started.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you worked, I remember plenty of companies that you worked for on and off and everything. And then you just kind of transitioned to back in, when did you start the first company you co-owned?
Well, you know, there's been many companies I've created or started. Furniture repair was one of the other things I learned. Sewing and touching up wood and restoring, that was a small business. But then after going through other businesses in the construction world, I felt that I had to be in a partnership. I was too afraid to make the leap. So I got into a partnership back in 2004. And it was a company down in Dayton, and it made me feel like, well, I'm going to be a part of something. And there's a lot to learn. You got to know your partners. You got to know what you're getting into. And that's where I've learned a lot about trust to verify. Military taught me a lot of that, but I kind of slipped once I got out of the military. And once I had that business, I did not trust to verify as well as I should have. And so, but it was a good lesson learned. You learn a lot with partnerships because you have to trust and communicate. And I didn't do either.
Yeah. So would you tell someone that's kind of in that similar situation that you were in, debating on whether to, because you said you were scared to go in on your own right away, what would you tell someone experiencing that same thing?
I wouldn't tell them any different other than if they feel they need to get into partnership, if that's the comfortability. But I can give them an outline of what to watch out for.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So moving through that company, you learn from it. Obviously, that's all life is just learning. They're not just mistakes, but just lessons learning from. So what made you want to start your own business now? Finally,
well, it was the situations that we went through and the comfortability that I did and learned from the partnership. It made me a more confident person to do it. I didn't think there was any other choice to go that route. I was kind of forced in a way that I needed to go that route. I could have went to another company to work, but my past experiences that the culture, the atmosphere wasn't correct. So I thought, well, I'll go this way, and started that in 2009 with Armcorp. And matter of fact, it was probably the worst time. The recession started in 2008. There wasn't much going on, but I look back and it was the best time to start it.
Yeah, I've heard that before. So it makes me think when we have these conversations, there's people that just want to show up to work and just do their job and go home. Were you in that phase, or did you always want to own your own business? Did you always have that drive to have your own thing?
I didn't really have the drive to start up my own. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of learning. And I've seen a lot of younger people get into businesses, and it's been successful. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of younger ones start up and felt that they could do it, and it wasn't so successful.
Yeah. So what was that one thing that made you think, I want to do my own thing? Was it like poor leadership? Was it something in a company that you were with that you're just like, man, I would do this differently? Or is that just accumulated over time?
I wanted to be treated well. And the only way that I felt that other people had an opportunity to be not expendable, I wanted to start up a company so we can bring people in that they're treated well.
Yeah, definitely is here. So how'd you come up with the name Armcorp?
Well, since I was in the Army, and then I worked for the Army Corps of Engineers, started drawing it out. Mary, my wife, we were both trying to figure out what we're going to start up with. First off, she says, why, you're really nuts to start up something. Can't you find something else? And I said, well, no, we need to figure this out. So we took everything that we owned and put into it and started drawing this thing up. And that's what I came up with, Armcorp.
And is that kind of a spinoff of Army Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, putting both of them together.
And did you work with them or for them?
I worked for them. Once I was in the military, he basically was an Army Corps of Engineer employee, government employee, worked around dams, airstrips, reservoirs, and that's what it was.
So you were the dam contractor?
I was a dam inspector.
Awesome. Drew, I feel like I'm kind of asking all the questions. Do you have anything?
I just vividly remember sitting in the living room in 2008, 2009, trying to figure out a name for this company. Going through all the names you were in the military. I know you wanted to make it a military related thing, and that it was just a difficult process, but then you just came up with it and it worked so well.
Well, it is kind of interesting. You know, I've heard that what your mother is, she kept saying, well, call it Rosengarten Construction. Well, you know, my grandfather had Rosengarten then, but Rosengarten's such a long name. I didn't know if it really fit that. There's, you know, I didn't want to be, it's not a house builder name.
Yeah.
It needed to be different, and it was going to be an S Corp. So we needed a corp strong name. It took us a while.
Yeah,
it did.
But I mean, you can't force something like that. That's one of those names that just comes at you in the middle of the night or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what life is about. It doesn't come, if you overthink it, it will never come.
Yeah.
And it just popped in and woke up. And what you see here is how it came. That's the first colors. That's the first of everything where it began. Now we have so many different other colors and designs with it. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So something that Armcorp is different in your typical construction company that people don't think about is we are a veteran-owned service. What is it? SDO VSB.
Yes.
Shoot, I always get it wrong. But service disabled small business. Can you kind of dive into that? Explain what that is, how you get that certification.
Well, the certification is what was caused in the military. I was injured in 1985. When you're injured in the military, you have an option of, back then you had an option to get ahead and get that disabled benefit. To me, I was probably too hard-headed, and, you know, I was the one that raised my right hand in the first place. And I'm very more fortunate than a lot of these veterans now, or what they're going through. I do have my limbs. I do have everything. But at that time, it was a service-connected injury. And so that's what happens when you get out of the military. You have a service-connected situation that happened in the military. I never really thought about that I was going to start up a business and it was going to be that. So I started doing some research, and being a veteran is as strong as being a veteran-owned business. It's strong anyway, because we go out there and fight for the freedom. Again, I rose my right hand. I made that decision. It wasn't anyone pushing me to go that route. So now there's these benefits out there for these people, the brothers and sisters in the military. And it's a good benefit. It really is, because if you're out there fighting for this country, I feel when they get back in the civilian world, it's a benefit that needs to really be recognized. And so there's what we do in the federal government world. They have set aside work for the service disabled world or veteran owned. And it's a good thing that it was created, because it gives us an opportunity in a smaller group of bidding stuff It is difficult. We all know it. Our people here know how much more difficult it is, but as long as you let them get to where they need to be, it's a good benefit.
Yeah. So speak to the veterans that are maybe looking into this process of becoming a service disabled small business. How difficult is the process?
Well, the process is a challenge. There's a lot of paperwork. And when you go through DC, you got to make sure that you're actually legit. So you have to have your the paperwork as you ETS out of the military. That has to be a process. And then you're filling out all of your income statements. You're filling out a lot of the financial stuff. You're filling out things that they need to know that makes you and verifies you into this process. They do need to be tight of it because I think you really need to put yourself as a real veteran to own the business. So the process is tough.
Yeah.
But getting through it is well worth down the road.
Good. So what was your mission, vision of Armcorp? What was the ultimate goal that you wanted Armcorp to be?
Well, it was to be a builder, and it was to be a veteran-owned builder. It's not out there to protect this country, but to prove that we can do other things other than being a soldier. And being in general construction world, that's what I wanted to be, and that was what my focus was, is to be a general contractor and to have people feel like they were part of that ownership in this. Yeah.
So how has that lined up with the last, you started in 2009, it's 2022 now, almost 2023. Has that aligned?
Well,
how you wanted it?
It has been aligned, but I have learned a lot because when I became an owner by myself, I was a bastard. And to be upfront is that I felt that the military was that driving force, and that's what we were taught in our head, was to be a driving force and to people learn for that driving force, and that's not true. You can't drive people because they're all different, and you can't push them to drive way you feel. And so I think that my difference from then till now has changed. So the improvement has changed.
What made you become aware? Was it someone talking to you, or did you just have to figure that out the hard way on your own?
Well, I figured it out my own. No, it was a 50-50. It was your mother said that you need to straighten up because the way you look in your face, and as you guys were raised up with me, my face always told the picture. And so I had to change. I had a lot of counseling through in the military years, but then I had to get a lot of counseling. And it was just not a counselor. It was a person that really knows what you need to do differently. And to do that. And until this day, I still go to a psychologist, but it's really a neuro psychologist, and it's more of a mindset. And
that's something that I would highly recommend. It's a stigma of men, especially, just not to talk and just bury stuff down. I mean, it's not good. So is that something you would recommend someone to get a mentor, just talk about everything, just because everybody has blind spots? I mean, the way you're talking is that you just had a complete blind spot that this is how I wanted to run it. This is how I'm going to be. I don't care what anybody says. But then once you took those blinders off, you're like, people started telling you, I need to slow down. I need to straighten up because people aren't going to accept this. They're not going to receive me well. And it's just, I'm going to have turnover and all this stuff.
And that's what made me learn, is that working for other companies, you don't want to be scared of your boss. You don't want to be scared of the owner. And I didn't want people to be scared of me. And that's what it was. They were too afraid to talk to me. They didn't know what kind of attitude I was going to be if I was walking down the hallway. It's just, as you kids were raising up with me, you didn't know what to do. If I looked grumpy and it's true.
Yeah.
And so you really have to put yourself into, look yourself in the mirror, and don't be proud that not getting a counselor. It is a huge thing. You need to talk to someone outside your family. Don't talk to friends. Don't talk to the family. Talk to someone that has to listen to you and they can help you get through some of that.
That's the big thing, is that especially for veterans coming out of the military, they see a lot, they hear a lot, and I think there's a lot of people that come out of that not knowing what to do and commit suicide. There's always someone to talk to. And that's exactly what you're saying right now. And that's very important for people that are listening to understand that if you know someone that came out of the military and is acting the same way as they were, they definitely need to talk to someone, because there's always a route out of that.
I have a very, very close veteran friend that we've grown close. We actually built a house for him, and we've been super close. And every time we go into talking to each other, and we have other people around us, and I'm not cutting veterans down, but they went through a tough life, a tough structure, and getting out of that structure and going into something they don't know, it tends them to, they feel like they have to say stuff to be important, heard. And 75% of the veterans, and I was one of them, was a liar, was a bastard to work with. And we always felt that we had to say things to impress people. And after that, learning it from him, me and him both look at each other, and we both were on that same lane. And we both got help. And that's what's helped. That is what drives, because it gets you back into reality.
Yeah. So do you think there's a stigma between veterans and civilians that they don't understand? Like, a civilian doesn't understand what we went through, so I'm just not going to talk to them. But I mean, I know a lot of people that are civilians that would be willing to listen and help out as much as they can, because that's the biggest thing, is just listening. But for the veteran, just talk, because you hear this 22 a day suicide, but they're going to the VA and just getting medicine, temporary medicine, Band-Aids to put over this. It's really just talking and becoming vulnerable and feeling those emotions that you're just digging or like burying down. So that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. Civilians shouldn't assume, and the veterans shouldn't assume. So assumption is what happens. And for me as a veteran coming back into the civilian world, I needed to talk to a civilian. And you learn a lot from it because of the structure is different. You know, they're open-minded. They're not laid into like they were in the military mentally. And mentally, there are some people that need to go in the military to grab onto discipline. But there's options you need to weigh. How far do you go? What you can learn and take it. But then going back in is you need to talk to a civilian, because it brings you back to reality.
Yeah. So I get, this is an off the wall question for a civilian business owner. What would you recommend they hire veterans? And if so, why, I guess I should say?
Well, you look at the veterans that come in and come out, they're going through a lot. They're missing families. They leave their families. They go and fight for this country. You got to remember that their mindset is straightforward. They have a structure. You have to work with that structure, get them back. But they are workers, and majority of them have a great structure. Yeah. They just don't know how to find it. So if you're a civilian contractor and you want to hire veterans, because if they don't know anything about construction or anything in that business, you give them a process, they will retain it. And when they retain it, they're very quick and they're very disciplined on that retaining. Mm-hmm. And so hiring veterans is a strong thing.
Good. I agree. And I mean, I myself is a veteran, and you kind of are just, from the moment you join, it's just the discipline and the structure is instilled in you from the beginning. So even if you didn't really pay attention to it or buy into it that much, it's still there. I mean, it's just calloused in you from just repetition. So yeah. What do you think about, so moving on, just what is culture to you?
Well, culture to us, or to me, is people first. And that is the people are here first. Mm-hmm. And that's where you have to treat them as them. They are first. If you don't treat your people first, you're not going to get anything out of them to be able to treat your client as well. And when you have each other's back, and that's where you take that military structure. And that's why I'm telling civilians, contractors, is you're going to have your back with that veteran. You are going to be protected. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so knowing that people are first, That's what we take care of.
Yeah.
So what are some things to make people first to you, to put people first?
Just think about them.
Yeah.
They're there. They're humans.
For sure. I had a commander when I got out that he was great if you got to know him and talk to him, but first thing in the morning is be like, hey, did you get this done? Can you get this done? Can you get this done? And to some, that's a turnoff. Like, they don't want to work for you. They're not going to give you 100%. For me, I understand it because I took the time, but then you have other commanders or other leaders that come up to you and be like, hey, how's your wife? How's your dog? How's the kids? Like, that's just different. I mean, to me, that's how I want to be. Like, you want to become personable and get to know your people, because then they know they care. They know their opinion matters. So that's something for me that I think, and I know that about you. Obviously you're my father, but I hear you go talk to everybody else in this company and you know everything about them. So it's not just coming at them and be like, did you get this done? Is this done? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Yeah, those conversations are had, but when you build the relationship and the trust first, it's easier to have those transparent conversations.
Well, you don't want to be a dictator. And dictatorship, it is not putting people first. So if people have a position and they're accountable for that position, allow them to make the plan. Don't tell them how to do that plan. The process is there to help them to create their plan. Is if you have a good process and they can take that and make their own plan out of it, they become a great system. So when you do that and their plan is 70% of what you think it should be, let them do it, because they'll never learn if they fail from it. Now, if it really gets silly looking, make suggestions. Don't tell them, listen to them, ask them questions.
Mm-hmm. Good. So the next question, you answered it in our morning meeting this morning, and it was a different take than I thought, but what makes Armcorp different?
And I look at it now of being and hearing that from when I got into the business, what makes us different as a Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, what makes us different? Well, I would right now, if someone came and asked me that question, I would say, I'm not going to answer it, because difference is everything. Everyone's different. And if I was to create something that we felt that made us different, it would be followed 6 months down the road, and then you're not different anymore. But if you start thinking about that, then focus, not worrying about if you're different, focus on the people that you have here. Because if you waste your time trying to figure out what makes you different, you're behind the 8 ball. So let it run. And that's what about the culture is let the people and not dictate, because you're going to get all kinds of questions and answers in between your own group.
Yeah. What are some attributes of being an owner and a leader? Have you adopted some routines, some habits that you would suggest that you've learned over time from all your experience?
Well, first off is give. It's if you have $1, give 10 cents.
That's in the Bible.
Yes. And that's the first of everything. Then it's a mental mindset. You have to, as a leader, is exercise. Be for yourself. You're first. Your people are first. But if you want your people first, you got to be first in yourself.
100%.
And that's give. And so give the time to you, give to people around. And that's a mental mindset that you have to drive on with, because if you can't do that, then you're not going to be able to do it for others.
Yeah.
That we're talking, and I kind of noticed that in you is just, I don't think when growing up, I don't ever really recall you working out or exercising, or I don't know how well we really ate, but it's like, I've noticed that you've changed that over the years, and that's made a huge difference. So it's just like healthy body, healthy mind. I mean, kind of thing. Just give to yourself, fill your cup first. I know that's a saying that people like, that you can't fill from an empty cup, but it's true. I mean, if you don't take care of yourself first, I mean, it sounds so selfish, but over the past 2-3 years that I've been on this voyage of self-improvement, self-development, personal excellence, it's, you literally have to wake up in that moment is give to yourself. Like, you are the most important thing. Yes, people say God first, but that's putting yourself first is putting God first, putting family first. That's putting you first, because everybody needs you. Like, they need the best version of you. So, and I've seen that out of you over the last, ever since I got back to Salina out of the military. So,
yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. Got anything to add?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. What is the most important thing when owning a business? What is the most important thing that you've noticed?
Do the right things.
Integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's service. And it goes all back to being you. You do the right things, being upfront. Don't shortcut it. Just do it right.
And document it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cover your butt. So moving back into actually Armcorp and what we do, what are some of the services that Armcorp provides and how has it evolved over time?
Well, it's, there's all kinds of things that Armcorp does. It's general construction, design, build, like any other contractor out there. It can tell us what we do, renovations, additions. We do greenfield, meaning that we'll go out and build fresh for anyone. We've federal contracting. We're 90% doing federal contracting and the value engineering, and we have electrical division. So we're a broad of things that we have.
I mean, we've put up I don't even know what the building, a nursery in a prison, the Ohio Reformatory for women. We put a prison up there. We've put an addition on a meat market. So jack of all trades here.
Well, jack of all trades, and sometimes it's jack of nothing, but we take pride on whatever we do. We have so many great people here, and that's why it makes us the versatile of people that we have here. Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah, it's just providing value. I mean, that's the biggest thing in life is just provide value. If you're in a position that you feel that it sucks to come to every day, like audit yourself and look at yourself. Are you providing as much value as you possibly can? Because at the end of the day, when everybody in that company is providing value, that company is successful altogether. So the biggest thing when it comes to personal excellence, just take care of yourself first. And when you have a collective of that in a company, the company is going to be organizationally excellent. So let's see, what has been the biggest obstacle throughout the life of Armcorp?
Being a leader. If you can't mentally be who you're supposed to be as an owner, it's leadership, and leadership is an everyday thing. We've had lawsuits, we've had people not doing what they're supposed to do. That's just a thing. That is something that we deal with every day in life. But it's how consistent you can be in your emotions. And if you can handle your emotions and you grow with it, that's becoming a leader. And leadership is probably the biggest obstacle in a business. You know how many things we've been going through. Like I said, that's life.
Yeah.
No matter if you're going through what you are in life, it's how you handle it. And
yeah. So how does the obligation feel of knowing that you have, I don't even know how many employees we have right now, 50 employees under you that you have to take care of? What kind of burden is that?
Well, honestly, him from going to like being the only leader, now having many leaders under you, I feel like it's honestly not a burden anymore because you have so many good people under you that you've created into leaders that can just lead this company. It's not just you anymore. It's these amazing leaders that you've created underneath you.
And that's exactly right. You have to allow it.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes a great leader. If you're going to become a coach in a football team, there's reasons why there's coaches underneath them.
Yeah.
And if you can't, and if you want to grab on to doing the defense, offense, wide receivers, running backs, and you're trying to do all of it, you'll never become a good coach or a good team.
Yeah.
You have to allow people be leaders. They become better leaders. They will become smarter than you. If you know that people become smarter than you and a better leader than you, then you are a great leader.
Absolutely. And I even think that the leaders under you have leaders under them now with superintendents, even with laborers. They lead their own jobs. They do their own things, and it's all relation to what you started and created.
The best thing and the best story is when people go home and they can share with their spouse that what they did.
Yeah.
The worst thing is when they go home to their spouse and say, I hate working there.
Yeah.
And so every time you put that in your head, I'm at the 40,000 foot level. I don't need to dip down Let other people take care of the 30, the 20, and the 10, and the 5.
Definitely. So awesome. What are some future goals? Where do you see Armcorp in the next, I say 5 years, 5-10 years?
Well, the goals, it's kind of interesting you bring up goals. I look goals differently now. I have set goals many times in my life, and 50% of them have been completed. And it's discouraging when the other 50% have not been completed. So I said I have to figure out something different, because if you put dates and you put something that you want to be as a goal, you're going to be 50% of getting it. But if you can make it into a vision and a project, and a lot of people like to finish projects, you're not measuring it, but you're getting it done. Mm-hmm. So I look at it as a vision. So I see Armcorp as a vision that it's unlimited, and I don't attach nothing to it. So I let the people figure out what they can do. And so my goals are surpassed what I thought. And that's, I guess I'm just repeating myself, but the future is great.
Yeah. You would say, honestly, is the vision is like an art piece. There's no end. There's no time limit goal. There's just that process. And whenever it's done, it's the masterpiece.
Then you move on to the next.
Right.
Artists don't have goals.
Yeah.
They just throw it on a piece of, you can see splashes everywhere, and then you walk in an art gallery and you're going, oh my God, that looks gorgeous. What's the story behind it? Oh, I just threw a whole bunch of paint on it.
Yeah.
It was a vision.
That's a great point, because you said it before you said all this. It's a vision. Like, an artist doesn't have, it's a vision. It's in their head what they want to draw. It's not particular. It's not perfect. And then when they put it on paper, it's not going to be exactly what they visioned, but they got to the vision. That's pretty cool.
So if it's a goal and you're going to paint it, you're never going to get it done, and you're never going to be pleased with it.
Yeah, because a goal is more particular. It's more precise. Like you say, I want to bench 300 pounds. Like there's no limit. There's no flexibility to that.
That's your limit, honestly. Then you're on to the next goal.
Yeah, labels are limits for sure. But like the vision part's interesting. Like this whole artist kind of theme that you've talked about is really interesting.
Well, that's how I run the business. I when I started the business, I had goals, and they weren't being hit. And I said, I got to change. Mm-hmm. So what is it that in my mind that I love enjoying to do? A vision. Mm-hmm. And everything that you put a vision board, you look at the pictures, you cut out, remember what you want, put it on a board, look at it, stare at it.
Because it evolves and changes. Goals don't change. You've set that, like you said, it's a limit. Yeah. You've set it. And now you're just like, holy crap, freaking out because I can't get it. And I'm doing my steps towards it, but it's not, that limit's not moving. A vision, it can evolve, it can manipulate, you just see it. Because like I said, if an artist has the vision of that piece that they want to put, the pen strokes will be different. Everything will be different. Yeah. Every down to the little detail will be different.
That's why you never think about the past. Yeah. You never think about the future, and you work on the present.
For sure.
And that's what a vision is. Yeah. It's the present time, because your vision can change tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But once you keep putting that vision in front of you, it will become something.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's good stuff. So one of the last things I put on here is Armcorp is very involved with the community, extremely. So we have your nonprofit Lots for Soldiers, and you do a lot with the schools, TriStar especially, which Armcorp advocate for TriStar over anything, because it's just we need those skilled workers, especially with these younger generations. So can you explain some of the community involvement and opportunities?
Well, you said everything. I'm a board member at TriStar. It's really interesting what they can create there. It's like walking in a mall. You go over to TriStar and you see these students working on anything and everything, from being a vet to being a nurse's assistant, being construction, being a welder, working with other equipment, drafting, and everything else. And it's like a mall. You can go into in a mall and buy anything you want, because there's so many different things. And to be a part of that, to see these students that couldn't afford college and go into something that they're learning is huge. And so we donate monies to this to help the younger generation, and they're starting. I really feel that they're a stronger group of kids that are growing up, and the TriStar is a huge benefit for that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Lots for Soldiers. Your mother being the president of Lots for Soldiers, and it's such a neat thing. Like I've told you, that 75% of the veterans do come out rough. We want to help them. And so we have blessing applications. We've built 5 homes, and it's a good story. And, a few years ago, we go out and ask for donations, and we had 2 veterans that we built this for. And to do that for them and turn around what we got, we were able to hand them the keys, and their loan was $1. And that's special.
It's awesome.
And so the veterans out there, we want to help one a month. Mm-hmm. This blessing applications, that if they have a bad stove, a refrigerator, and they working day in and day out.
Yeah.
And we interview them. We are making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And if we feel, the board gets together, and if we feel that they are deserved of what they've done, they're already deserved, but they have to prove. Mm-hmm. And that's about that civilian world. I said, they prove it, and then we'll help them because that's what we want. Yeah. And that's what Lots for Soldiers.
Because it started as lots, like a lot for a house. Like you go buy a lot for a house, but now it's just more like we do lots for soldiers. Like we do a lot for soldiers. So I kind of like that. Yeah. It's not just focused just on giving a house, because that's a lot. I mean, people need more than just a house. Like,
well, now we're able to help 12 veterans a year instead of 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whatever we can do. And that's about that them habits and routines I talked about. The first one is give. What other great way can we do that?
For sure. Well, awesome. Do you want to add anything?
No, these were great questions.
I do have one final question. This is a question for both of you. We talked a lot about veterans in this podcast, and that's a huge, talking point in the United States right now. So a lot of veterans, a lot of military members going into the military don't have a route. Like they don't know what they're doing. I would say 80%, like both of you didn't know where to go, not to go to college, not sure what to do. So they went into the military. They got disciplined, and now they're out. What's the best advice? Because they went in knowing nothing. They came out knowing discipline. But how do they transfer back into the civilian world? What's the best advice? Because there's a lot coming out right now that have no idea where to go, no family to turn to. And that's where the suicide, that's a big deal right now.
I would say just continue that. Take it upon yourself to continue that and keep that, and just be a leader of your own. And don't think it's just over once you get out. Talk to people. That's the biggest thing, is don't just bury down. Just trust people. Talk to people. Just continue that. I mean, don't give up on that. You can be a leader in yourself. Start your own business. I mean, Tim's going to talk about how to start a business over the period of this podcast. And I would just say, just stick with it. Like, don't lose that discipline just because you're out now. Like, you can build stuff outside. Just surround yourself with the right people, surround yourself with the right situations, make good decisions. And like I said, the moment you wake up, everything's your fault from that moment. Like, you make a choice to get out of bed. You make a choice to go brush your teeth. You make a choice to not work out. Like, make the right choices, because where you're at today is based off the choices that you made. And just don't give up on that. Like, I know you're out now, but yes, I felt that I missed some of the camaraderie and everything, but I came here to Armcorp and I surrounded myself with good people, and I didn't lose that. And then it's more like I've improved. So it's a good foundation.
And of course I want to help veterans. The brothers and sisters out there, we definitely want to help. And it's something that, they need to reach out, and it's tough because sometimes they don't want to. It's not even about being embarrassed, but they sometimes feel they're too good. And then their mindset just goes the wrong direction. Mm. So it's not even if the veterans, and put them aside, there's other people out there that want to get and go in different directions. And I've always said, and I've always prayed, that I want to write a book. Well, it's interesting that, I feel God that said, well, hey, you're going through a lot of stuff right now, because you did say you want to write a book. Well, how can I write a book if I haven't gone through any experiences? And so I feel that this book ain't done yet. And so that's what I want to tell people out there. They can write their own book and they can write their own story, but they have to fill themselves out what direction they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't want this book to end.
Yeah.
There is no end.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great question.
Yeah, it was.
They are stuck. And if we could help everyone coming out, but if we can just have a percentage of that, that's why we have this podcast. That's why what we're doing right now to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just overall, I would in a one line, just talk. Just talk. Don't think you're out now and you just have to bury it because no one's going to understand you.
Yeah.
You just have to. You got to help them understand. And being transparent and honest helps people understand. Yeah. Don't think that you are coming out and people are just going to sympathize with you. Mm-hmm. Sympathy, you got to evolve and go to empathy.
You didn't get that sympathy in the military.
You got to empathize.
Yeah.
You've got to empathize with other people. You got to hear them and they'll hear you. Yeah. There's plenty of people out there that'll empathize with you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. But yeah, great question. You got anything else?
This is the first episode, and I think it was outstanding.
For sure.
Because the questions were great. The comments were fantastic. And get this out there.
Yeah, for sure. And going forward, like I said, Tim will come on and talk more about, he'll give you leadership podcast, business podcast, anything, everything. I mean, we look, there's a massive vision for this podcast, and we look forward to sharing. You'll be able to hear this on all the platforms soon. We're on Facebook, all the social media platforms, YouTube, we'll have it all. So just follow us and we'll give you what we can get or give, I guess, because that's all we're about is just giving. So,
Yep.
I mean, we want people to win. If we're winning as a community, as a nation, like that, we're all going to succeed. Why do we want to hate? Why do we want to divide? Just share with people, share your wins, root for people to win. And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah. We got an empty board. Now let's put some figures onto it.
For sure.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Thanks.